Welcome back to 33 Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Michael Abney, and today I'm joined by Erickson. He's the founder of the Brickers Foundation. Erickson, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Michael. Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. When we first met, something that stood out to me in our first conversation that we had was that your work didn't start from a strategy or a college class. It started from actually what you witnessed from your parents when you were growing up. You watched your parents be in service. You saw community not as an idea, something outside yourself, but it was something lived and internal. And now you're not just supporting nonprofits, you're literally amplifying. So so we get all the shows with everybody. We really want to get a sense of what transformation are you in the middle of right now?
All right. Again, thank you for having me. Really excited to really dive in deep about the organization, a little bit about myself, right? So the why. Why did we start the organization? So what transformation period am I at right now? I'm at a point where I don't care, right? Before it was more so thinking too much, overthinking, and a lot of times
Mm.
think we tend to not move at all because we're wondering, is this step the right step? At this point in my life, I'm like, it's all or none, right? I'm all in and let the chips fall where they lay, right? And if I make a mistake, it's okay, right? I used to be so stuff on making a mistake, and that kind of limit me from being progressive. Now it's like, take a chance, right? And really go after what it is that's inside of you. And this thing that I'm doing now, it's always been in me. But again, second guessing, is it the right time? Is it, I have this foundation, I don't have the money, I don't have the notoriety like these other foundations that are out there. Am I ready? Brickers, does it make sense to even call it after myself because I'm not this well-known person? You know what I mean? So really second guessing a lot of stuff. But like I said, the transformation period is really right now, I just don't care. I'm really going after what's inside.
How's it feel?
It feels great.
You know, it's a
Not to
lot
not
less.
care. Yeah.
It is. But have you noticed, like, from where you were talking about, I totally relate to you, by the way, but like, that's a firstborn, that there's just this, you can't fuck it up thing that goes on in your head. Like, I came by it naturally, or, with the environment that I grew up in. But it is a true hindrance. And when you hit that like purpose, that mission driven space in your life, and it's like somehow that old messages gets kind of mapped onto what you're doing, but it's also gets in your way. So now that you're at this part where you're allowing it to be exactly what it is, and just like where the caring starts to disappear, what have you noticed about yourself or your life where that spaces where that sort of fell off, and how did that look when that happened? For me, it was super jarring because I felt in some way, even though I knew it might have been in my way, it was part of my identity. So I'm curious about your experience of when those pieces started to come off of you, or what have you noticed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always put it back towards so I did a thing a couple of years ago. I jumped out of an airplane, right? I told myself I was never going to do it, but I saw something online, had a Groupon to do it, and the opportunity happened, and I took a chance, right? You have to really you have to care about your life, but to an extent, you really leave it all out, right? And just kind of, I'm going to do this, right? And I had second thoughts. Truthfully so, I didn't have second thoughts until I was actually going up in the air, and that's when the second thoughts happened, and then at that point, I was like, I saw the first person go out out the plane, like, "It's too late now, you gotta do it, right? It is what it
Yeah, were
is."
you in like one of those ones? 'Cause I did it too. And I was like the last one in, or first one in, last one out. And I didn't get scared till I started people seeing them
Right,
start scooting up. And I was like,
that's what it is.
no, oh
Reality hit.
no.
Yeah, I have a video, I'm, like, all amped about it going up,
Yeah.
about to jump out of airplane, and then when the door opens and you see that first person leave, you're like, "Oh, wow, this is it." You know?
Yeah. This dude's behind you. And you're like,
Yeah, this is what you're gonna
yeah.
do. You can't be one of those guys, "I can't return back around." You can't do that, right?
No.
So,
But
it's like,
how was that moment? Because that's a very pivotal,
it was
and then it's like,
once I
yeah.
did it, I literally hit the ground, before I hit the ground, it had to make sure the parachute opened first. So once it opened, then I could breathe a little bit and kind of just take in the experience. I mean, really, once I hit the ground, it made me realize like I could do anything. Like what's more scarier than hopping out of an airplane? I don't know. How do you top that,
I
right?
don't think there's anything.
Yeah,
Well,
with
speaking in
sharks.
front of people at the beginning was kind of that same sort of, oh my God, it was kind of actually the same. Where you just kind of that moment before the parachute opens. Did you have a moment where you were like, where it was able to relax into that freaked out feeling? Did you have that moment?
Yeah, it was a moment between jumping out of the airplane and then hoping to God that this parachute opens, right? And so
Yeah.
if you look back at my video, he's like my mouth is like wide open for one.
Yeah. Flapping like
Yeah, it's
crazy.
awful, right? Didn't even know you're how do I explain it? It's like when you look at a video of somebody falling out of the air, it doesn't look like they're really falling. It looks like they're graceful, floating in the air,
Yeah. No.
really falling.
Yeah.
And so that's how my expression looks. It's like I'm really falling for dear life. And so the guy had to tap me a few times for me to pull it. But you know, once it's there, then I was like, okay, now we're good. I get to take in the beauty of what's out here, you know. And that really did a change in me. It's like, you know, there's no fear whatsoever. If I could do that, I could do anything.
Yeah. I I did that pretty early on, and I distinctly remember I never ice skated before, but I was one time I was in well, New York City, and I was at the ice rink in front of Rockefeller Center, and my friend was like, "You have to ice skate." I was like, "You're right, I totally do," even though I've never done it before. And I remember that moment. I'm like, "Can't be scarier than that." And I kind of took off, and it just kind of like, "Oh, well, not kind of this is kind of fun." And then bam, I like hit the ice and crawled my ass back around. We sat at that little coffee shop, but like at least I did it, like I wasn't scared. I've used it multiple times. You're absolutely right. Once you confront something,
Yeah.
yeah, it does get easier. And I highly recommend it skydiving at least once, just to get.
I tell people that. Yeah. I don't think I need to go again, but I would definitely recommend at least once to get that fear factor out.
So let's go back to like how this kind of started. I was fascinated by, like I said at the beginning, about your parents and what like that experience was. What did you see in your parents that shaped your understanding of service because they were doing it? Like how did that's different than most of us learn service
Yeah.
in an outside conceptual kind of way. It was lived for you. How did that gel?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just observing, it was actually being in it, right? So, my parents, we were never at home. I can't recall a time that we're actually home on Saturday just being bored watching TV. We were always out and about doing something. My father had us in rec sports, Boys and Girls Club. You know, my mother, she had us, you know, in the choir, with church and doing some church activities and things of that nature. And so karate or Boy Scouts or this or that, baseball. It was always me being in a band. It was always something, right? And I think that what clicked, right, is that I recognize it was never just about me, right? I was never a solo artist of anything. I was either outside playing with friends. I had a sister, right? So I was never really quite alone, although I had alone time. But, you know, when it comes to like community and you realize the impact that you could have with just outside of yourself. I saw that since I was a kid, right? The power of sports, power of being involved in church communities where there's giving back, you know, outside of your time. And so that's really what sparked it.
When you had like when you meet people, when you were doing sports or doing the things, all of that, was there a moment when you realized that, what your parents were doing was not what everybody else's parents were doing? That
Yeah,
you realized that
yeah, I guess. I mean, I didn't really, you know, because I guess the environment that I was in, you know, they always had us around active kids, right? So, and then where the kids are, that's where the parents are. So that's kind of what I saw and what I knew. Seeing that those parents were out there cheering on their kids at the practices. You know, you'll have the soccer moms and the moms of the we call them den mothers for Boy Scouts. You know, there's always parents around. You know, and then you're spending the night over somebody's house, and then the parents, you see how active they are with their kids. It was just normal to me. You know, that's kind of the environment that I grew
where
up
did you
in.
grow up? Where
Where
did you
did I
grow
grow up?
up?
I grew up in,
Where'd you yeah.
Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area, yeah, of, Virginia.
Okay.
So Southern Virginia, and yeah, we're all my family's there. I never had a chance to really navigate out of the area for Christmas or holidays of that nature because family was always within a 10-minute radius.
Did you ask them where they got that? Did
I
their
never
parents do that? Like, how did that occur for them? Maybe it's because I never grew up like that. Like,
Yeah,
I never knew anybody that grew up like that. Service was something that I learned like in, well, Boy Scouts was the first place, but there was like as I got older, there was organizations that volunteering and different things that I
sure,
did. But it started out, it was like you're supposed to be doing that. I didn't
sure,
really get like community like that.
yeah.
That was, you know, I just went to my first protest like about a month ago because we were taught. I grew up different in the country, and
Right, right.
you know, yeah,
I
I'm
wanna
just fascinated by this that you grew
Yeah,
up this way.
I probably I never really asked actually, but to think about it, I probably, put that to the fact that my parents came from big families, right? My mom is the second to the youngest of 10
There you
kids.
go.
My dad is the youngest of 10 kids, literally. So 10 and 10 on
Okay.
both sides, and my dad was military. My mom's side, a whole all of them are pastors,
Okay.
you know what I mean? And so I think
Yeah.
just instilled in them.
That'll do it right there.
My
My dad
grandmother teacher, you know what I mean? So that service was all
okay.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
get it.
yeah.
My dad was military too, but it translated in another way, how you did things. I'm sure you had that too. So when you had this and you started to like you realized that your mission was evolving, what made you realize that smaller nonprofits needed the exposure, not just the money? Like what was it about the smaller nonprofits? I talk to a lot of nonprofits from the founder perspective with what I do, and so many of them are in dire need right now of finding new ways to, well, for them it's about money, finding new ways to about money. But when I'm working with them, I'm like, you guys have got to own your own power now, like what's your take on that and why was this a fit for you? Because you mentioned that that was a priority for you.
Yeah, it was. Because I knew nonprofits are generally where the resources or the help is gonna be funneled to where it needs to be, right? Not saying the bigger organizations don't, um, but if we're talking about community, it's generally gonna be those nonprofits who are not focused on money, right? They're focused
Hmm.
and so that's where I figure, I want to help community. But at the same token, I don't wanna step on other people's toes, right? I'm like I think we talked about this before, like, how many code drives could there be? Let's find out where there is one, and how do we make sure that's the best code drive in that area, you know what I mean? Or people knowing where to go for that code drive. And so that's where it started is I wanted to and it didn't really even start with amplifying. It really started as, okay, I knew that nonprofits are near and dear to where the help is, right? And making sure that the people get the help.
Yeah, like literally.
Yeah, literally. I mean, they're right there. And then the smaller ones, the big ones, I mean, we got that, right? The United Ways, we know they do amazing things, but the smaller ones are really like those ones that are actually right in the neighborhood that you open up your door and you see them on the corner with the box of coats. You know what I mean? So that those are the ones that we gotta make sure because that's direct impact, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to go through a lot of layers and hoops, and then you figure out where's my money going. It's direct impact. You
Yeah,
see.
it's right there.
Yeah, and so I started out as a traditional foundation, right? A traditional foundation in the sense where, okay, let's give them money. That's all I knew. I saw other foundations do it. Every celebrity that you know can think about, they have a foundation, and what do they do? They give money, right? So that was the general idea. But I'm different because I'm not a celebrity. I don't have a bunch of money, so I'm not cutting those $1,000,000 checks or anything like that. I did what I could, right? But then I figured out what can I do more of, and more doesn't always mean more money. More just means where
No.
need, right? Where's the need? Yes, yes, they need money, but how else could I provide an impact? This organization could provide impact to them, and really, it's just making sure that people know they exist. Like I mentioned, you open up the door, you see that organization on the corner, but sometimes maybe they're not on the corner. Maybe they're who knows, right? You know, they might be down the street and you didn't even know they were there because what have you, right? They're this way, but your line of sight is that way. And so we gotta with the use of technology, we've found a way to amplify what these nonprofits are doing in the community so that we can make sure that people are getting the resources that they deserve and that they need. And make it easy for them to access it versus having to not know where to start or where to go.
When you're working with them, how does that shift you? Like when
If
you're in the digs with them, because you're not just handing them money, which is awesome. I love this.
yeah.
You're actually physically and emotionally, spiritually
Oh my gosh.
giving. Like, how does this shift you?
It shifts me. So I will say we how we highlight, we actually go out physically. That's our purpose. We want to go out to capture the story, right? Face to
Hmm.
face connection. We have people on the ground to do that, capture the story, bring it back, right? So they'll have us talk to whoever they want us to talk to. The leader who founded it, perhaps, or the volunteers that help the organization run, or even the recipient of the resource, right? Somebody who's a testimonial. Yes, I'm taking advantage of the program and it does wonders for me. We love that. And so we did our capture back in Virginia, Southern Virginia, where I'm from. And we actually talked to, again, those three different types of people I mentioned, right? The founder, the volunteer, and the person that's receiving the program. I didn't personally do the story. One of our members did, but looking back at the story, oh my gosh. I mean, just hearing how, how they were impacted by the resources, right? And so this story get out. I mean, because, nonprofits, I mean, they do a really good job at doing the resource stuff, but maybe not a good job of being on TV to expose what they do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or to do that. Or maybe, people need to know they exist and maybe that's not their thing, but that's our thing. And that's where we come in. Is like we need to show people what's going on here because it's amazing.
You're exercising, you're witnessing them and they're
Yes.
seeing you. It's like,
It's power in the
it's
story.
so powerful. Like people, yeah, like,
We're
yeah,
missing that. I mean, like if you try to find nonprofits today, there's probably 1 or 2 databases that, if you're a donor, you wanna give back and find a nonprofit, you gotta go through you hoops and, whatever to find them. It's not easy because we're looking for them and it's not easy. We have a whole research team to try to find these nonprofits. But even when you come across one, it's a bunch of text. It doesn't really tell the story behind their why. And so when we actually go out and capture that, oh my gosh, it's life changing. It
do you
turns
help them with that,
help
with
them
their
with
story?
yeah, yeah, we actually yes, we do. Yes, we do. We actually prep them on, how do you want us to present you, right? That we actually have a whole conversation before we film with them. What is it the message that you want to get out? Who do you want us to talk to? What's the takeaway? All that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something that I had to learn the hard way, like over and over again. Even though I love storytelling, I love reading, I love the power of all of it. When it comes to your own life, and
Yeah.
it's different.
Right.
It's like there's these blinders on, and it's like you don't want to acknowledge that. So after I learned that, and that ignited something in me, like a confidence or something that I wanted to even keep learning more about how to do that for myself. But the power in that when I want to give back, to founders, this is what this, that's why it's called 33 Conversations. We're telling a story through a conversation. I think it's the most powerful thing
Agreed.
we can do versus like, here, this is just what I do versus in your world,
Yeah.
that's the contrast or the juxtaposition between somebody just giving money to something or writing a check
Yeah.
and being so detached from it, but you're actually making a difference and you're in a different sphere than, I don't know what that percentages is, but I would say it's probably the 80-20 rule where 20% of the people are doing what you're doing and the 80 are just writing the check to clear their guilt or whatever that thing
Right,
is that
right,
they
right.
do.
Right, right. And
Nothing wrong with it, but there
that's how
has
we
to be people like you that are doing the
yeah.
connective tissue work
Yeah,
because,
it felt so cold.
yeah.
I mean, we struck a check and yeah, of course, I mean, who's not gonna be, happy about, receiving funds, right? But again, we cut the check and then we move on to the next one and cut the check. It was becoming transactional. It didn't feel like it was we call it partnership, right? And that's how
Hmm.
we tailor the relationship today. It was like there's a partnership. That didn't feel like a partnership. That was more so we're doing your service, we move on and go to the next. But now it's more so let's really understand, you, right? Where I don't think we really captured that before because we didn't take the time to learn.
Yeah, but when you're in it, physically experiencing it, it changes something about how we see things. And how did that help? How did that change your mindset? One. And then when one thing changes in one place, it affects so many other places because, like for me, it was the confidence. Oh, yeah, I can definitely do this. I learned this. I love learning. and that it started expanding, but you're in the set where you're in the digs with them. How did that change your mindset personally? And then how did that show up in your life, the other
It's
parts of your life?
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, just the feedback, right? The feedback that they give us to let us know that we're doing the right thing, right? I love that I love feedback. I love what's the word? I call it confirmation, right? Sometimes it's
Yeah,
using
validation. Yeah.
yeah, just to make sure that I'm on the right track, right? And so we get that from them. They sent us an email and said, "Hey, we thank you." We also see that in our members, right? Our members are when we put this out, literally overnight. I mean, people are just gravitating to our mission, right? And we literally just went from like a small organization to like a global one in a matter of days. And people are really gravitating. And that's what's if you're talking about a confidence booster, I mean, I don't know what is when people are just coming out the woodworks, right? And because it's not about the money, right? It's about the mission. It's about helping people. It's a eye opener, and I'm really appreciative. It's really humbling to be honest with you, because when you start something again, the fear is, I wonder, does this make sense, right? And I wonder, I don't want to look stupid or wasting my time. Is it a value? Oh, but when others are latching onto your mission and vision, I mean, gosh, and everybody's walking with you. I mean, that's the ultimate
Yeah.
booster right there. That means you're
What do
doing
you
something.
think? What do you think is missing for people that they don't get what you're getting? Because that's the gold right there. What you're talking about, that's the gold. What do you think other people that haven't hit this spot yet? What do you think they're missing?
Uh, when you're saying the volunteers or people,
People like you that are in that space of
uh,
having a foundation and that may be where you're at and don't know how to shift into that 20%
yeah,
that
yeah,
feel it.
yeah,
I believe that energy is rising on the planet where we're realizing that money's, kind of a joke and like we got to figure out other ways. But at the same time, there's billions of people on the planet that we can help right now.
yeah.
What do you think they're missing about making that jump or that leap into where the vibration of what you're creating, the frequency of what you're creating?
Yeah, I think it's multiple things. I think it could be fear, right? The fear of the unknown. There could also be some comfort level with it, knowing that as long as I'm doing the day to day, and the checks are out there on the boxes, and nobody told me no, and I'm just going to keep doing the same thing. I think people get complacent with where they are, right? So even when we started with the foundation, and we're cutting checks. Yeah, I mean, we are doing good things. We weren't doing anything wrong, but there was still something in me that I felt like we could do more of, right? And I always tell people, when you feel like you're at a comfort place, you need to do something else, right?
Mhm.
It'll always stay uncomfortable because that's the only way you grow, right? The moment that you're comfortable,
Exactly.
you're in a place where you're stagnant. Things are is what it is, but there's no growth, and so I would never have known how we could do or how far we could go without having to change something in the process, right? And my team, they tell me this, sometimes often, right? It's like the moment they get used to a process, then we're like, change it up to something else. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
because everything's always evolving. It's not
well,
supposed to be static.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the
Yeah.
more you mastered it, okay, now let's master something else.
So what is that for you? Like you've embodied this purpose and you created this, it's expanding. So for you, what's the thing that you're becoming next? What's your next chapter?
Gee, that's a good one. I don't know. I mean, just to continue to impact as many lives as I can. You know what I mean? That instant gratification, and it's not even about me. It's just making sure. I tell people, I feel successful when you are successful, right? If I see that you're getting what you need, that's validation for me that I'm on the right track. And so, as long as I keep doing that, I feel like the things are just going to come, right? And so, I have this document in our organization called "What Do We Do," and it's basically just a high level mission statement, but it's not really high level because it's really great. It's like a whole full page of what we do, but it's really at the kindergarten level, explaining exactly our why. Introduce this when I bring on people. We always go over this document, and I say this is our guiding star, right? No matter we want to try to grow here, grow there. Let's not forget the mission. Let's not forget why we're here, right? And so that's the same thing with me, is that I want to continue just to build communities and make sure people have what they need to be successful. And then whatever happens to me, I mean, yeah, I'll take it on. But
How do you feel now like you're showing up? Like how does this feel inside of you that, you're showing up for yourself in a different way now?
Feels amazing. It feels amazing. It feels like I'm really walking in my purpose. And that could be a whole nother conversation about finding your purpose, right? Geez, I can go on and on about that. But I think our purposes are there, but I think we overlook our purpose because of, like I said, fear. It doesn't seem right. Not right now. I'll get to it. So I think we all have a
Someday,
sense,
maybe.
yeah, I think we all have a sense of what that purpose is because it doesn't go away. But what happens is we just overlook it, right? We put it aside. We're like, we're not right now. I'm busy. I want to go after this thing right now, this job promotion. I fell victim of that,
We all did. We all do.
going chasing after jobs and wanting to move up the chain. And I tell people all the time, like, failure is there's no such thing as failure. Sometimes failure is like a redirection into where you're supposed to be. And so a closed door doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that maybe that's not the door I'm supposed to be in. And so, I use that, throughout. I started doing retrospectives of my own life and the things that I had a lot of good, but I had a lot of no's. I had a lot of things that I didn't get that I wanted. Looking back where I am now, it makes sense, right? It makes sense that, okay, everything happened for a reason. Just enjoy the journey. There's just a
Yeah,
lot you could take out of a no, I'm telling you. So just in
absolutely.
journey. Yeah.
So, are you ready for your closing question?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, for somebody listening to us today that feels called to give back now that this is this conversation, but doesn't even know where to begin, what would you tell them about starting where they're at?
Really, really good question. I would say take a chance. So, using me for an example, I always wanted to do a foundation. It seemed grandiose at the moment, and it kind of still does because my guiding star is like those big ones, right? I think that we can get. I'm not up to the level where I'm cutting $1 million checks, but that didn't stop me, right? That it might have stalled me because I felt like we needed to wait until I get some notoriety of my own self to start a foundation, quote unquote. But at the same token, it's like, why not now, right? Why not start where I am? And you got to ask yourself that question. It's like, why not me, right? You start looking at these other people and they're there and you're here, but you can still have impact when you're where you are, right? You don't have to be where they are. You can have impact where you are right now. And just ask the question, why not me?
Yeah, why not me?
Why not?
So, that's a Winona Judd song somewhere. Why not me? That's a brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that and reminding us that purpose often starts with what we witnessed along the way. You had it right in your face all of the time, and it made an impact. And for all of us, have some sort of version of that and some sort of internal language for it ourselves. Thank you for making us present to that today. And you're right. It's a purpose is that thing that just does not go away. It's always there. But thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael.
30 You're so welcome. 33 conversations exist to highlight humans behind the mission, like Erickson, and the courage it takes to step fully into your own voice. Community grows when people decide to actually show up. Where can you show up today in your community? And where are ideas and solutions that would make your community better? It does start right where you're at. And who in your community can you start a conversation with today? Yeah, those are the questions that I have for listeners today that they can put in their purse and take home with them. But I just want to thank you guys for listening and supporting our podcast. I'm so grateful to all of you for liking and sharing and commenting wherever you're listening or watching us from. Yeah, many blessings, and we will see you all on the next one. Bye, everybody.